Hey Algebra, you should be on page 24 in your packets. As you watch this video, make sure that you pause it when you need to write stuff down. By the time this video is over, you should be basically done with your notes. If I skip a problem, it would be a good idea to pause the video and finish that problem before you move on. Your other option is obviously to finish the video and then go back, but you should, by the time you're done in quotation marks with the video, have all of the notes finished for this day. Alright, so there's a couple things you need to know for this, and one is point slope form. And in point slope form, that is anything in the form y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. Now, if you were in algebra last year, this was probably familiar to you. If you've never seen it before, it looks really, really crazy. But the funny thing is, it shouldn't look as crazy as you might think. I think everybody remembers the formula. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And at first glance, it doesn't look like these have anything to do with each other, but watch what happens if I multiply both sides of this equation by x2 minus x1. Now on the right-hand side of this equation, the x2 minus x1's cancel. You're dividing by the same number. On the left, you have your slope times x2 minus x1. Now, I know it's flipped around, but take a look at these two equations now that we've gotten rid of the x2's and x1's on the bottom. Now, our equation here, they don't have 2's, but it is basically a rearrangement of the slope equation. They are the exact same thing. So this is point slope form, and it's called point slope form because you have a point in the form x1, y1, and a slope in the form m. And m itself is slope, and x1, y1 is any point. Now you also notice that there's just a y and there's an x in this equation. These are going to stay y and x. It's the point, x1 comma y1, and the slope that gets plugged in. I'm going to put arrows under here. So this is where we're going to plug things in. This y1 and this x1 are the points. These are just x and y. Alright, we talked about this yesterday. In order to write the equation line, you must have a point and a slope. You do not have to have the y-intercept. You just have any point. You have a point, and I tell you you're going to rise 2 and run 3, you can draw your line. That's all you need to know. Then we'll go down 2 and we'll go left 3. That's what you need to write the equation line. Alright, make sure you got everything paused if you need to write stuff down, because I'm going to move this down. Okay, so for these problems, we have a point and we have a slope. This is our x1, this is our y1. Let's write down our equation. So it's y minus y1 equals my slope times x minus x1. And that takes a little bit of memorization to begin with. And again, it is still just slope. If you put the x's down here, it'd be the y's over the x's. But once we have them, all we got to do is plug these in. And the instructions just tell us to write this in point slope form. And we'll talk about how to put that in slope intercept form. Now let me just double check. Does it ask us for both? Alright, so these instructions say specifically write the equation in point slope form. Now we learned about slope intercept form yesterday, and we might actually spend a couple seconds going into slope intercept form as well and seeing that they are the same. So anyway, we've got our point, we have our slope, so let's plug in. We have y minus our y1 is negative 3. So minus and negative makes a plus, equals our slope of negative 3/4. And then it's x, you leave the x alone, minus x1, which is 1. Now, if the question says write the equation line in point slope form, the only thing that I might do is rewrite it so that I don't have this plus a plus, or just erase the second plus. This is in point slope form. This is not slope intercept form. Slope intercept form is what you learned yesterday, y equals mx plus b. And you don't know what the slope is. Or you know what the slope is. There's a slope, but you don't know what the y-intercept is yet. So we'll come back to these problems and talk about how to write the y-intercept. But for now, we're just focusing on writing the equation in point slope form. Let's try the second one. Actually, yeah, we'll do the second one together. So it's y minus y1, and again this is x1, y1, so y minus 5 equals my slope, which is 2/5, sorry, and my slope, and then x minus my x1, which is a -8, so minus a negative makes it a plus 8. This is in point slope form. So if you have a point and a slope, point slope form will be the best. So point and slope, you want slope intercept, or point slope. Now, just because that's what you want doesn't mean that's always what I'm going to ask you for. I could give you a point and a slope and ask you to put it in slope intercept form. And that was yesterday's notes, and you can look back to those to see how you would do that. All right, let's try the second one here, the second set. Now here's the problem. You need a point and a slope. We have 2 points and we have no slope. So what we got to do, we got to find our slope. So that's the first thing. So my slope is y minus y over x minus x. And again, there can be 2's and 1's, but it's just as long as you go in the same direction. So 7 minus -4, so right minus left, and then you stay with right minus left, then you're good. So 6 minus 3. So we have 11 over 6 minus 3 is 3. It's not much of a fun slope, but that's just what it is. So now we have a slope and we have 2 points. We have too much. So if we take, you just have to choose. So whichever point looks more fun, that's the point you want to pick. If they look about the same, I pick the first one. Now, which one, when you wouldn't pick the first one is when it's something like 1/3 -92, and then like 1/5. If those are your ordered pair, I pick the second one. So you pick whichever ordered pair you like, and if they're about the same, I pick the first. So it's y minus my y1, over here. So minus a -4 is +4, equals the slope, which I just found to be 11/3, parentheses, x minus x1, so x minus 3. Now, you might say, okay, well, what if I pick the other point? And I wrote y minus 7 equals my slope, which is 11/3, and then x minus 6. Now, at first glance, that would be, well, those look completely different, right? These are not the same. Here's the part that's a little tricky. They are the same. So because of the way I've got this set up, I'm going to erase the slope. But if you need to see this again, how this came back, you feel free to go back and watch that part of the video. But it's gone now, so we'd have to rewind to get it, but it's there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of this up, which is kind of a cool thing to do. And watch what happens if I distribute. So we get y plus 4 equals, well, 11/3 times x is just 11/3 x, minus, now here these 3's are just going to cancel out. So 11/3 times a -3 would be -11. You feel free to type that in your calculator if you want. And again, it's also the same thing as 11/3 times 3 over 1. 3's just cancel, or 33 over 3, which is still 11. Alright, and then the last step, if I wanted to put this in slope intercept form, is I would subtract over the 4. Just distribute, and you solve for y. So y equals 11/3 x minus 15. So from what we learned yesterday, the slope is 11/3, and the y-intercept would be 0, -15, because we're in mx plus b form. So we found our slope and our y-intercept. Now that's not what it was asking for. The answer to this question is in point slope form. So we figured that out a while ago. The answer to this question is this. But if I wanted to put it in slope intercept form, that's my mx plus b form. Now watch what happens when I do the exact same thing with my other point. So again, we did y minus 7 equals my slope, and then it's x minus 6. So let's distribute 11/3 over. Y minus 7 equals 11/3 x minus, okay, 11/3 times 6. I'll put a -6. Put it over 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. This would make a -22. Use your calculator to verify me if you need to, but you should wrap your mind around the fact that this should be 22. The other way of doing it is just multiply across. Negative 11, or 11 thirds times negative 6 over 1 would be negative 66 over 3. 66 divided by 3 is 22. Alright, last thing. Add over the 7 to get in y equals m is supposed to be. And you get y equals 11 thirds x minus 15, and we get the exact same thing. These do not look alike until you distribute, but it doesn't matter which point you pick. Both of these are valid answers. Alright, you might want to watch that one again, but then use it to try to answer number 4. And then a really quick note, the question underneath this asks you to write the lines in slope-intercept form, which is exactly what we had done at the bottom of that last equation. So if you have the slope-intercept form, that's this right here, we have the answer to our question here at the bottom. Alright, last thing I want to do is, there's no questions on this set that are like this. I want you to take out, well, you shouldn't have to take it out, the page that the sub passed to you. And we're going to do one of the graphs on the back of it. So pause this and get to that in a second. So finish up the rest of these notes if you haven't done that, and then take out the page from the sub. Okay, so on the back of the handout from yesterday, or from today, there is a couple graphs, and I want to do one of these with you just to make sure that you know how to do it. So we've got some points, and we've got a slope and an intercept. There's something and a point up on the other page, which look just like the notes that I just gave you. But these graphs on the back are a little different. So this asks us to put this in slope-intercept form, and the reason you want to put this in slope-intercept form, and we can do both, is you can see the y-intercept, and hopefully you can see the slope. Now when you've got graphs like this, you look for straight, like exact points. So like here, it's not crossing at an exact point. This is not crossing at an exact point. However, here, see how it's exactly at the cross between 3 and 3. So we're going to use this graph to figure out my slope. So this is rising, no, this is not 2, this is at 2. It's rising 1, and it's running 1, 2, 3. So my slope is 1/3. My y-intercept is 0. Oh, sorry, it's 0, 1, 2. My b is 2. So slope-intercept form would be y equals 1/3 x plus 2. And that's it. If I want to put this in point slope, I got to realize that b implies the point 0, 2. So my point slope form would be y minus 2 equals my slope, which is 1/3 x minus 0. You should verify that if you solve this for y, you will get your slope-intercept form. But if you have a slope on the graph and you can see the y-intercept, the slope-intercept form of the line is better than point-slope form of the line. That's all about, do you know what b is? Do you know what the y-intercept is? That's the only time that you can ever go directly to slope-intercept form, is when you can see, or when someone tells you what the y-intercept is. If you don't know it, if you just have a point, 5 is not necessarily going to be the y-intercept. 3 is not necessarily going to be the y-intercept. And that's the biggest mistake I see people making, is they have an ordered pair, they find the slope, and they just assume that the first y they see is the y-intercept. That is not true unless the first y you see happens to be where the graph crosses the y-axis. Alright, so what you should do is finish the rest of the notes, finish this page, because I want you to turn this in before the end of the period, and then work on your homework afterwards. If you have questions, feel free to watch the video again. Ask your neighbor on task for help if you need it. Good luck. The sub will have an answer key to this worksheet if you need to check it. And be good. Have fun.